So welcome to the show, Darren. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure.
So Darren, today we're going to obviously dive into your story a bit and who you are. But before we do that, just tell our listeners about who you are, what you do, where you're from, type of thing.
Hello, everybody. My name is Darren Holmes. I run a physical mental health and wellbeing platform called Kaizen Mindset. We're based on the Wirral in the United Kingdom, which is kind of between Liverpool and Chester geographically.
Awesome. It's great to have you on board with us because you're doing such good work, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know you over the last few years, really. But obviously for our listeners, it's the first time they're hearing us kind of speak today with you. So tell us a bit about what's life been like for you. Can you share with us a little bit about your story or maybe any challenges you might have had along the way?
Yeah, my life has been an interesting contradiction in the sense that I've always been a very happy soul. But then I joined the military at 17 and I went off in that direction for 10 years. During that period, obviously, you are changed into a different person than your heart and soul you were born with, because you trained in different ways, and then you get to travel the world and meet interesting people and sadly also go into conflict. And that sort of experience, as anybody militarily will tell you, that changes you massively. It wasn't until several years after leaving the military that I developed PTSD, well, CPTSD, I was told. And there's been a number of challenges in dealing with that. On leaving the military, I went into business with, I was working for my father in the property sector. That was immensely successful. We were doing incredibly well financially until the property crash around 2009. We had international investments, and basically we had the rug pulled from under us, and we collectively all lost a fortune. I was left in a position where I had a choice of either bankruptcy or not. And the only way that I was not going to go bankrupt was by finding a means of paying the debt, which was quite substantial. So I also owned a martial arts academy at the time. I sold the martial arts academy for 7,000 quid because I needed 7,000 quid to do some educational courses that were going to get me where I needed to be. Found myself in Afghanistan for 6 years, working in the risk management sector, which again heightened and highlighted the traumatic stress aspects of what I was already dealing with in my life, compounded by the debt, etc., etc. I know it sounds like a sob story. It isn't. There were several other events that took place. My grandmother dying, I broke my right arm, snapped my bicep tendons, came out, successfully paid off the debt, left Afghanistan, was overjoyed, was only home for about 2 days, and then received an £80,000 tax investigation from historic properties I'd bought and sold. So I was back on the phone saying, can I have my job back? So off I went abroad again. So you can just imagine that the levels of stress were going up and coming down and going up and coming down. It was, to say it was a roller coaster is a massive understatement. Got to the point where I managed to pay off that aspect of the debt. So it was like, hooray, we've succeeded. And during that period of time, I'd met a girl, I'd fallen head over heels in love. We were going to live happily ever after. I came home, quit my job. I was only home for 3 days and she finished the relationship. So again, it was like, oh my God, what's going on? Add to that the fact that I had a 2-year opiate drug addiction whilst I was working in Afghanistan. So I was living on Xanax antidepressants. So again, physiologically, the effects that they were having on me. So I eventually found myself lying on a sofa, looking at the ceiling in 6 to 8 months of cold turkey and doing the whole victim, where did I go wrong sort of mentality. And it was during that period I met Charlotte.
Well, you've certainly had a colourful past, really. I mean, I know everybody has on some level, but I think yours really, really has that common theme of stress, like to the max in there on so many different levels. And obviously our paths crossed when you was in a place of kind of coming out of that. You was already tapping into that personal development space. You was already thinking about, whoa, how do I actually start to bring all of this into a big learning rather than almost being a victim of it? So tell us more about that. How did you go from having all that compounded stress to being at a point where you started to just open your mind generally to how you could move forwards?
I can't say that there was an individual triggering moment. I just knew that I was sinking and sinking and sinking, and I needed to do something to stop it. And I've always been into health and fitness, and I know that, you know, it kind of goes without saying for those people that certainly that exercise, that you know that when you do some exercise, it lifts you up. So I was looking for a platform where I knew I needed mental stimulation. I knew that I needed physiological education. I knew that I needed exercise, and I kind of knew. I knew the components that I needed, you know, so it's almost like your soul kind of says, look, here's the things we need, and you need to go and find them. And whilst looking avidly for this rescue package, if you like, and I couldn't find it, it just wasn't out there. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do it myself. And that's where Kaizen Mindset was born. And the very interesting sort of with meeting Charlotte when you guys were doing Kaizen Life Spark, and I had always had the name Kaizen in my toolbox that I was going to use at some point. So that's what glued me to, oh, that's interesting. What's that? And I was lying on my bed. My dad had recognised that I was not in a good place, and he'd taken me over to Portugal for a week just to try and sort of a bit of R&R, just a bit of dad and lad time. And I was lying on the bed, scrolling social media, saw something to do with Kaizen Life Spark, sent Charlotte a message immediately, and I think you responded straight away. And it was just like, wow, okay, great, because you sent me the Life Spark map, you sent me the book, and it was just that really, really sort of, it gave me the kickstart I wanted to do what you guys are doing, because you started helping me immediately, and I want to be the person, and I always have been the person who helps everybody else as well. Yeah. So I just thought, okay, how do I glue this all together, and how do I make it become a thing? Because if I'm looking for it, then there must be other people looking for it as well.
Absolutely, definitely. And your experience, like life experience, and everything you've learned since as well is now enabling you to do so much more for other people as well, and we'll touch upon that a bit later. Just for anybody that's listening that isn't aware, what Darren's referring to there is our old brand used to be called Kaizen Life Spark, and it was very much in and around coaching. However, that then evolved into wellness theory, and now what we deliver as a whole holistic approach. Now, Kaizen Life Spark, the map that you're referring to there is the Mindshift map. Which is just an ebook, isn't it, really, that we've kind of sent over your way, and is kind of at least built that level of connection, and at least kind of had that resonating factor with Kaizen. Because back then, because this was a few years ago, back then not a lot of
2016.
There you go, yeah. So not a lot of people had even heard of the word Kaizen, not really, not in the UK at least, from my experience. I don't know about yours, Darren.
I did a course called Six Sigma. It's a process management course, and part of Six Sigma comes from Japan. It's Toyota, Motorola, etc. And the Kaizen management aspect is in there.
Yeah, and that whole concept of continuous improvement and growing that 1% every day, that's what got us hooked into personal development. Because, you know, and for sure I know you know, it's like being an achiever yourself, and kind of that almost A-type personalities. You want to grow, you want to do everything, you want to do it fast, but that concept of 1% every day really kind of hones us back in to actually what we're moving towards. And that, you know, is like almost the breadcrumbs that we've followed in order to be able to create wellness theory and obviously make amazing connections like we have with you. Listen, I'm curious to know, before I know John's itching to ask you that question, is what was like what was you feeling? Like, how was the stress actually manifesting for you after everything that you've been through? You're at that point, but what was your experience on a day-to-day level?
I mean, I wouldn't even know how to put it into, I wouldn't know how to explain it. I would say empty is perhaps the best word to describe it. It was, I was operating, you know, I was getting out of bed, I was going about my day to day, but I was doing it in a complete autopilot fashion. Yeah. You know, I wasn't turning up. My body was there, but I wasn't there. And that was for easily a 12 to 18 month period. But there was also, you know, the aspect of getting off the Xanax addiction and stuff as well. So that was, again, mentally and physiologically, that had a major effect as well. Yeah. I was fighting myself daily.
Definitely. And one thing I want to touch on, which you kind of slightly mentioned when you're going through your story, that you've been into like health and fitness for a long time. And this is, I think, a very important fact for people who are listening to kind of understand. We've been talking about like the mental and emotional kind of stresses and traumas and situations you've kind of found yourself in. But what were you doing at that time physically as well? Because you said you were into fitness and you were you're also using fitness as a way to make you feel better. So what were you doing on a physical level as well during that time when you were going through those mental and emotional stresses?
Clearly, I was abusing myself. I was just running myself into the ground. I'd get my backpack on in the morning and I'd run from where I was living in New Ferry up to West Kirby, which is 10, 12 mile with 40 kilo on my back, to my friend's gym, where they would then put me through my paces for an hour. And then I'd either run home or I'd walk home. And then at some point during the day, I'd do something else, like I'd go out on my bike for a gentle 40-mile bike ride, you know, just it was masses of distraction for me. And I've always been a big lad. So I've always, you know, from a weight control perspective, we won't touch on the body dysmorphia just yet, but from a weight control perspective, it's always been, you've got to train, you've got to train, you've got to train. And it could well be the sort of military mentality as well, because, you know, and again, people with a military background, you know, you've got to be in really good physical condition to do your job. So leaving that environment, the environment doesn't leave you. So there was still that mindset that I had to, don't like the term, but I had to thrash myself into the ground every day.
Yeah, I think that's a big, it's definitely like 100% that kind of mindset in the military as well. But I think it's also getting like a big, that mindset is coming into the health and fitness in a big way as well, where people are, their misconception about training is obviously they're feeling stressed mentally, emotionally. So let's just beast ourselves in the gym or run ourselves into the ground. We're going to feel better. While, yeah, that might make you feel good because of that endorphin rush that you get when you train. But internally, the damage you're doing and you're compounding that, like we talk about that stress you're feeling mentally and emotionally, the physical side of it, you're just adding even more onto it as well. Which again might make you feel great when you finish that, but internally you're just making things worse. You're actually compounding even more. So when you were doing that, when you were beating yourself and thrashing yourself, did you ever connect what you were doing on the physical side with the stress that you were going through, you're experiencing mentally and emotionally? Did you ever find that those two connected?
No, not until probably within the last 2 years, you know, since working with you guys more so, very much more so. I mean, it started to become more common sense the more I was educating myself, the more I was looking into, okay, well, you know, you always feel an awful lot better and you train a lot better when you've rested a little bit more. And I work in the personal training industry, but I've never had the ethos with my, I'll say, civilian clients that I'm going to beast them into the ground. So it was almost as though I understood how to do it correctly with my clients, yet I was still thrashing myself because I was working from old values and old beliefs. And the injuries that, you know, I've just been riddled with injuries my whole life. I've broken all my ribs whilst I was in martial arts. I've snapped both my bicep tendons. I've snapped both my ankles twice. I've had 3 umbilical hernias. I've broke my collarbone. It's like my body. We mentioned before we started chatting about the body keeps the score, and my body really is keeping the score now, because whenever I train, whenever I push myself now, all of those injuries go, remember me?
The projection of what is happening on our like physical body is always projecting what's also going on mentally and emotionally as well. It's like you named all of those, like the broken collarbone and bicep tendons and all of that side of it, but if you then go back and we won't do that on this episode, but if we went and correlated those injuries with the stress points in your life, the things that you mentioned, I bet there's definitely some similarities there and some real congruence with when these injuries occurred.
Quite possibly, yeah. Running the Athens Marathon at 18 stone without training was probably the brightest thing I ever did.
Yeah, definitely. Again, that's it. People like a challenge, but it's and it's good to challenge yourself. But it's important to understand why you're doing it, and obviously the effect it has on your body, your mind, and your emotions, and the kind of the state you're in while you're doing that. Because you can either make things worse or you can make things better, depending on obviously how you're going into it. And I think that's a big perception a lot of people miss when they think, oh, I'm really stressed today, I'm going to go and beast out of the gym, but they can actually make things worse instead of better.
Yeah, definitely.
So for you, Darren, like you've gone through all that, you've obviously got in touch with Charlotte at that time. So why did you sign up for coaching in the first place?
Well, before you did coaching, actually, you did the 5-day to lasting change program, didn't you? Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll jump into the coaching side.
Okay. The 5 days blueprint was brilliant, and I mean it was brilliant. I've, as you guys know, I'm studying and I'm learning all the time, and I'm just looking for answers around every single corner, or I'm looking for a tidbit that I can take away and utilize with my own clients on the Kaizen Mindset platform. One thing that I have, and this is where that goes back to what I said earlier about the contradiction in my life. I'm a very happy person, but I have been extremely unhappy for a very long time. And anybody on the face of it that knows me would think, oh, there he goes. You know, there's that. He's always full of beans, and he's always confident, and he's always happy and smiling and laughing and joking. Not the case inside at all. You know, literally to say it was front again would be an understatement. So I was on the search back to being that, you know, happy soul that I know that I am. Did the 5-day coaching course, which was, it wasn't like, I wasn't thinking for a second, oh, this is going to solve all my problems. I just thought, okay, let's give that a go, because I've done several courses off several online coaching courses and stuff like that. Your blueprint, on day 6 of having done the blueprint, I woke up smiling. And I literally had to check myself, because I was like, was that me? Was I smiling then? What was, you know, and it was literally like waking up going, you know, and I thought, wow, if the 5-day blueprint can do that, where can coaching take me?
Nice. And that 5-day blueprint that you're talking about there, if anybody's interested in listening and wants to know more about that, it's now called the Stressful to Stress-Free Kickstarter program. And it is exactly that. It's a Kickstarter to get people connecting with themselves on all of the different levels that they can, and just start to bring their levels of stress, but with almost love and compassion at the same time, into their awareness, so that they can then move forward and already start to discharge any emotion or any mental blocks that could be occurring as well. And I love that then that kind of led you and sparked you to think, oh, well, what's coaching all about? So why did you end up doing coaching kind of off the bat of that?
I mean, obviously I've been following you guys for what we're knocking on 5 years now, and following lots of other people as well, and sort of trying to make connections between. I really like that. I don't agree with that. I do really like that. I'm going to utilize that, and everything that you guys have been doing has just been so. There's, you know, there's nothing that you guys have done where I've gone, don't like that or don't agree with it. It's just been so inspiring to me because it's the life that I want to live. It's been engaging, it's been challenging. It's just been such a great experience for me that I think I was on that seesaw of I'm about to take the leap forward in my life, and without a shadow of a doubt, the coaching with you guys has pushed me along now. It's really given me direction.
Awesome. So what did you expect at first when you first decided, okay, right, I'm gonna go in on this. I like these guys. I've been following them for a while. Let's see what their coaching's all about. How did you feel at first? What was you expecting as you kind of embarked on that journey with us?
I didn't have a clue. I really didn't. I say I didn't have a clue. Off the back of the blueprint, I did. And I thought, okay, well, if what we've achieved over a 5-day, just, what we would like you to do today is this, and that was getting me waking up smiling, then I thought, well, a couple of months of one-to-one coaching is really going to put me in a far, far better, more resourceful place. And it did, thankfully.
Awesome. So what is it that you wanted to achieve going into that? What were your goals or your expectations to what do you want to get out of the coaching experience?
I wanted to find more happiness in my life. I wanted to be more confident in myself. I wanted to be more confident in what I'm doing is correct. I wanted a better understanding of myself because obviously I've been through, not sure the word is trauma, but I've experienced a lot in my life, which has taken me in lots of confusing directions. And I wanted to bring it all back into an understanding logic of, okay, I know who I am, and I can now relate to clients who may be in those similar positions, and then using the experience that I've got in my life and then the coaching from the likes of yourselves, I can help them move forward with their lives.
Awesome.
At what point did you start then noticing those changes of what you wanted to achieve throughout the coaching?
I think when we did the beliefs and values exercise, that was extremely that was a great exercise for me to do, because if you go back to what I said when we first started talking about the sort of military mindset that they take a young guy of 17, they take every single condition, belief and value and attitude and everything that your parents and schools and whoever have taught you until that point, they change them all into a military concept where they can then send you off to a battlefield and hopefully survive and come back in one piece. There is never an undoing of that. So when you leave the military and you've still got all of the mindset, and I'm not saying that they're all bad by any means, without a doubt, it's made me the man that I am today. But what I wanted to do was be the man that I am today with a new upload, if you like. It's like with what I would say with you guys, through going through the beliefs and values, it established a far more up-to-date version of myself. Like downloading your computer, it was an upgrade.
Awesome. So how did you find the process of coaching? Like, what was your favorite part of it and why?
I can't honestly say I can't say there was a favorite bit, because everything about it was really, really good. But the best things, oddly, were the side part. So when you and I just discussed about happiness, and you said it's a state of mind, it's not a destination. And it was that light bulb moment of, wow, it literally was. It was like being hit with a baseball bat and just going, wow. And since that conversation, I've just gone, okay, that's it. I'm going to be happy now. And I have been since that day. It was so, and I can't downplay the coaching at all. I can't downplay it, because every single thing we did hit specific areas of me, whether it was the physical side of the things, the training processes that you gave me, the dietary aspects of changing my nutrition, and then all the heart, mind, and soul work that I did with Charlotte as well. It's been exceptional.
I love that. I mean, thank you so much for sharing that, because it's good for us to hear as well, like your favorite parts and the bits that, like, your big takeaways. And I love that it was sometimes that those moments of talking about things that you'd heard before, right? It's just that we get it on different levels, and it's so prominent now, like in social media specifically. It's like everybody's posting quotes here, there, and everywhere, and actually those quotes are so profound, yet we just scroll through and we kind of flick over them. But if you really took some time to go into the depths of those quotes and those simple pieces of wisdom, there's so much there that we can gain from it that can have that paradigm shift that you said that you had there with Jonathan.
Yeah, and it's like what I said to you and you had that shift, I had the same shift when I heard it many a time ago. And it's the fact that you're always looking for that next thing to make you happy. It's like, when I achieve this, I'll be happy. When I get this, I'll be happy. When I have this much money, I'll be happy. When I have this new job, I'll be happy. And you never are, because like you said, happiness is not a destination. It's not something you can work towards. You're either being happy or you're not. So the question is, you make the choice is to be happy. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, the human being and the human doing aspect was quite again, I would say, like a light bulb moment for me, most definitely.
Nice. So listen, what's life looking like now for you? So we worked together for a good 4 to 6 months in the end, with the Christmas period and everything as well. So like, what's life looking like now?
Very exciting. Obviously, working as well as working with you guys, you know that I've been doing several other qualifications, and I am just coming toward the end of finishing all of those qualifications. So that personal confidence in knowing that what I'm doing is right, and that I now have I've now got this piece of paper that actually says I'm capable of doing it, which is, everybody knows the certification of something is not where it is not, that's where the journey starts effectively. Once you've qualified in something, doesn't make you an expert. It just makes you hungrier for the knowledge. To quote a friend of mine who put it into martial arts, Terry McCoy, Terry said that it's not about the black belt tied around the waist, it's the logic of the arse that's inside it. Terry will quite like that. But I think things are going to be very, very exciting with the concept that I've got, because it doesn't exist right now. And I think once I can roll it out successfully, it's going to be a very exciting future.
What tell us more about that. I mean, what you're willing to share. Obviously, we've kind of had some conversations behind the scenes on this, so I'm not sure at what point you want to be sharing what's coming, but even sharing about what you already existing do is so valuable. So please do share it with the audience.
Well, what we currently have, the platform itself, Kaizen Mindset UK, is a blended approach to mental health, fitness and wellness. So it's not just literally getting somebody to come in and sign up for a personal training course for X amount of time, where they're going to get fitter in body, and obviously they will have the endorphin release of the happy hormones whilst they're training and what have you, providing that we're not trying to thrash them into the ground. But we're also working on we're working on mindfulness. So the guys, I'm giving them, you guys know as well as I do that some things work for some and some things don't work for some. So giving them several aspects of perhaps the mindful exercises, the breathing exercises, meditations, lymphatic massages and stuff, and all of the stuff that you gave to me, utilizing those skills from all to do with body, mind, heart and soul, looking at the physical aspects to their personal training and their nutritions. The guideline that I use is the routes to wellness. So getting out in nature, educating yourself in every aspect of what it is that you actually want to achieve. So if you're unsure about something, go and educate yourself in it. And then, if you lean back toward the sort of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the top pinnacle of that is self-actualization. So when you actually feel as though you're hitting all your targets within body, mind, heart and soul, you can then go on and give it back to somebody else. And I think that's where I'm at in my life. And I just want to give back and give back and give back now. I'm very fortunate in the sense that although I've had to work really, really hard to get where I am today, I have achieved everything I set out to achieve. I've manifested everything that I set out to achieve, bar one issue, which I'm working really hard on right now. Challenge, not issue, one challenge. And then just taking that forward and giving it to the peninsula that I live on, and then hopefully a little bit larger than that.
I love it. And if anybody listening wants to know more about that, obviously you're based in the Wirral, like you said at the beginning, and also you're obviously on Instagram as well, and you share a bit about what you're doing there and on Facebook. So where can they find you?
You can find me at Kaizen Mindset UK on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. Any of those 3 platforms will bring you straight to myself. Yeah, they're the 3 platforms that I'm working on currently. Perfect.
So we'll put those links in as well, obviously, so people can come and find you, come and ask you more about what you do, and you can share your wonderful words of wisdom as well with them and everything that you have to offer. Before you go though, I'm curious to know if anyone was thinking about coaching or thinking about embarking on this journey of integrating their wellness, what would you say to them?
I would say don't hesitate. It took me 4 years and a global pandemic before I committed to doing the coaching with you guys, and I cannot endorse this enough. It is the best investment I've ever made in myself. I'm 46 this year, and doing your coaching course last year is the best investment I've ever made.
Awesome.
That's quite a testament.
That is quite a testament. And I think, like exactly what you said, it's important for people to realize that whatever they do that is helping for themselves to grow is an investment. And I think that's what people need to look at it. Whatever they're spending money on, as long as it's something resourceful that's going to help them grow and become a better version of themselves, they've got to see it as an investment, not as an expense. So I'm glad that you use that terminology, because it is an investment, and you can clearly see that investment has paid off for you. You've got some amazing results from what you've been doing.
I really have, yeah. I mean, one of the best results I had was working with Charlotte and doing the timeline therapy, and that really did take me back to certain places I didn't want to go to, but it helped to repair those issues and then come back from them without the pain and trauma that has been haunting me for a long, long time. And I certainly couldn't endorse that enough. On the coaching side of it, every successful person has a coach. Elon Musk's got one. So if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Absolutely. That's what we always say as well. It's actually, because in the beginning, before obviously we were coaches, as it were, I personally always saw coaching or therapy is something that you have when there's something wrong, and that's not always the case. It's about leveling up, it's about performance, it's about your life experience, and I think sometimes there can be a misconception about that. One of the things I'd like to touch upon, what you just mentioned there about the timeline therapy, and you went back to places that you didn't necessarily want to go, but actually was super useful that you did, is just to highlight that actually going back and resolving past emotional issues can really, really not be horrible. And it's so many people think that it's usually one of their biggest fears and biggest obstacles from doing any kind of coaching is they're going to have to revisit past traumas, past stresses, and actually the timeline therapy allows us to do that in a very safe environment, so that you actually are guided through the whole process in a very resourceful way, so that you don't have to associate with those issues, so you can go back and resolve things without having to experience that trauma all over again. And again, I just think it's something really useful for people to hear that they're potentially listening. What's your thoughts on that, Darren?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It did bring up emotion, but it was emotion that needed releasing. And I would say if you imagine there was an air balloon, and that air balloon was full of stress, and what we did was we put a big spear in that, and the stress dissipated. And again, from like the comments of John about happiness is a state and not a destination, it has just given me such a release. It really has. It's taken a weighted burden off my shoulders, and given me a lot of clarity moving forward.
And that's the thing, like that clarity, it is because all of that stress is discharged. You're not having to waste energy now on those things that you was once holding on to, and now you've got all this clarity in the world, and you've got all this space for all this good stuff and all these really cool emotions that we want to be feeling. And that's going to obviously help supercharge you moving forwards. So on that note, like, what's next for you personally?
Well, it's all personally. I mean, I'm very much a sort of advocate of, if you do a job that you love, you never work a day in your life. And that is the life that I am living right now. I'm so passionate about, I'm passionate about training. I'm passionate about learning. I'm passionate about logic, and just everything that I am trying to formulate into the processes that I have for Kaizen Mindset are all the things that I do on a day-to-day basis, which makes me feel like a really happy, confident person. So being able to just transport that into my client base is such an intrinsic reward. It's way more than money can buy.
Perfect.
Awesome. Definitely. And obviously, I'm sure Charlotte feels the same, that we're looking forward to seeing how you keep continuing to grow and improve as a person. Like I said, we always keep in touch. We always enjoy hearing about your wins and everything that you're going through. So we're super excited to see that manifestation in the future for you.
Yeah, just to echo what John said there, it's always about that constant improvement. Like we said earlier, we're constantly improving, as is everybody listening to this. We're all going in different directions, but the one constant is that we're all always growing. And you've got so much clarity and passion. You can just hear it in your voice as well, as where that's heading. Like just building upon what you've already achieved, which is already so much, and the work that you do is so valuable for other people. And I just think it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to witness. So not only has our coaching journey with you been just really meaningful, obviously from day one, from the first time we connected, before coaching even become, it's been very meaningful, but to see how that's now rippling out into the world as well is wonderful to be able to witness. So thank you for that.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for being there. Thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you, Darren. Like I say, we just want to thank you for joining us today on this episode. It's been absolutely amazing hearing your stories, hearing your process. I'm sure everyone listening is going to be very inspired by what you've been saying, and it's going to definitely food for thought for a lot of people out there who can relate to what you've been through, and who now probably have some ideas on how to go forward as well. So thank you for sharing everything you have today.
Awesome.